Work in suicide prevention believe poor U.S. economic conditions are partly to blame, much like the Greek debt crisis that led to a jump in suicides there.
What you see is people losing jobs, or people having to work extra jobs, and so those life stressors are increased, and that impacts things like personal relationships, work stress, criminal legal problems go up, substance abuse rates go up, and so all of those things are connected.
Something's wrong with Patrick.
But McKee believes it's depression that causes most people to take their own lives.
As I look back and start to put the pieces together, it's like, oh, yes, he must have been suffering with a depression, and he hid it from all of us.
McKee says men in particular are loath to talk about mental health. This new website, mantherapy.org,
we'll be getting off our keisters,
uses a humorous approach to help men deal with their anxiety, even their suicidal thoughts.
It's the manliest way to relieve stress.
We can't just tell men to, go see a therapist. We have to give them options.
With all the stress points in society,
there's just a constant motion of...
They want to know about why people are really suicidal. It's selfishness. We've enabled and breeded and taught selfishness with every passing generation. It's gotten progressively worse and worse. Selfishness and our culture has been based upon that survival of the fittest mentality, the lack of consideration toward each other, the lack of means of, in a clear, honest, coherent manner, communicating with one another and understanding that, the average person is hurting. Why do most men commit suicide? It's not because of money. Money is not the main reason why a lot of guys commit suicide. Men who are happily married, who are rich, who can't handle being how the other half lives, and that's about, maybe there's maybe a small 2% of people who do that, but most guys who commit suicide, it's because of loneliness, divorce, breakups. Your average man between the ages of 40 and 50, between 40 and 65, would rather blow his own brains out or jump off a bridge or a building than to grow old by himself. That's why most men commit suicide, and it's absolutely sickening and disgusting, and it's hurtful, and it's wrong, and it's one of those situations where, our culture bases around money and good looks and financial security and all these basic shallow endeavors that a good man is a good man. And unfortunately, once you hit 35, the odds of you finding a good woman or finding someone to be happy with goes down more and more and more and more, because that's where society is built around. So to assume that that guys are not prone to commit suicide, that's a bona-faced lie. A lot of men are prone to committing suicide because we live in a society that expects a guy to be macho, be that macho male bravado, or to be rich, or to shake it off. Tell a guy to shake it off. Be a tough guy. Be a man. I hate to tell you this, but men are far more emotionally frail deep down inside than women ever will be. They say men are the stronger of the species. I beg to differ. I think women are far stronger than men in a lot of different ways. But men are far more emotionally frail than women could ever imagine. That's why a lot of men are committing suicide, because men are lonely. They're lonely. Your average man who does that's mine, they believe they're never going to find that kind of happiness, that companionship, that closeness. Lack of companionship is what usually drives most men to do that. If we stop promoting selfishness or encourage our society to take people's feelings into consideration and to really acknowledge a person's hurt, a man would be less inclined to do so. And also to teach them accountability. There are women who've done some pretty fucked up things to men, who've done some pretty hurtful and nasty things to guys. there needs to be some accountability if you break a man's heart and he's so damn down on himself that he wants to die. That kind of cold, crass behavior there should be some form of, like, reprimand in some form or another. That way we could sit there and teach you. And men also. If a man breaks a girl's heart, he should be screamed at, chewed out, put in his place. Something should happen to him for hurting that girl. The reason that suicide is going up and up is because we become a society that sits there and rewards bad behavior, and we don't discipline each other, or we don't reprimand each other for doing bad, mean, selfish things to each other. That's why it's going up. But the minute we stop rewarding bad behavior and acknowledge that this is a problem, this is not okay, this is hurtful and fucked up, that's when that's when suicide will go down. Socially, as a society, as a country, we need to evolve. Germany already has laws against that sort of thing. France has laws against that sort of thing. Sweden has laws against that sort of thing. Britain is now just beginning to recognize that kind of behavior is what led to a lot of suicide. Prior to COVID-19, they were actually starting to socially evolve ahead of us. Also, as a country, in the grand scheme of things, other countries have been in formation for hundreds of years before ours. We're only 300 years old, which means the American government is only 300 years old. As a culture and a country, we have a hell of a lot more to learn. That's one of the reasons why, as a half-blood Native American, I try and tell non-natives, why don't you walk the red road? In our culture, we don't believe in taking what's not yours. We don't do that. We also don't believe in rewarding bad behavior. It's just not our way.